Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited today to talk about the Women's Prize for Fiction shortlist and kind of my reaction to it. It's not a live reaction. I watched the shortlist last night. It was released at 7:30 in the a.m. today in the UK. Hopefully today, if I release this video today, April 26th. But for me in Western Canada, that was 11:30 p.m. at night. So very excellent time, honestly. The worst part was just waiting the whole day for it because I was so excited to see what would be on it. But luckily it was not a weird time. I think last year one of the announcements was at like 3 or 4 in the morning for me, and I did not stay up, nor did I wake up that early. So I got very lucky this year. I am pretty happy with the shortlist. Honestly, I think I would have been pretty happy with most of the books. There was one book that I did not like at all that I think I would have been quite disappointed to see on there. And it's not any of the books I talked about in my predictions. So it's, and I don't know if I'm going to mention it, but the books there were a couple books in my predictions that I was not a huge fan of, but I could still see some sort of merit to them. I know quite a lot of people liked them, and that's why I put them in my shortlist prediction video. They weren't necessarily my favorite books that I'd read, but I could see that there was something that would maybe make them like shortlist material, whereas there was one book I read that I didn't think it was shortlist material. I don't know that I thought it was longlist material, honestly, and I don't want to throw shade at it right now because I just want to talk about the shortlist. Maybe I'll talk about it later if I do like sort of a Women's Fiction Prize 2023 wrap-up video once the winner's announced, and I'll maybe talk more in depth about some of the books I really liked or disliked, but I just kind of want to make this video really quick if I do not ramble, which we will see. So first off, I'll probably just talk about 3 books that I predicted correctly, starting off with The Marriage Portrait, which I'm not very surprised. I may be a little surprised that both The Marriage Portrait and Demon Copperhead were nominated. I mean, I could see them, like either of them having been nominated, but maybe not both, honestly. But The Marriage Portrait is the one that I read, so that's the one that I just put in my predictions. I really like this one. I don't have much more to say on it that I didn't say during my shortlist predictions video that a lot of people already also haven't said. So I will just say I'm happy that I got nominated. It was a good book, and I've since heard, watching some other people's predictions, that some people thought that this was Maggie O'Farrell's worst book. And someone else says, Lena Norms said this in her predictions video, that if that's her worst book, then I'm excited to read her best book, because it was a really good book. I think she's a very talented writer, just based on this one book alone. So happy to see it there. I don't know how I feel about someone winning the prize a second time, especially quite quickly, honestly, just because there are so many like debut or newer authors who were also on the list who I would have, I don't know, really like to see move on to the shortlist, or think that it would be cool to see like more authors being recognized. But I mean, I think it's a well-deserved place on the shortlist, certainly. Secondly, Pod. I know this is a bit of a divisive book for some people. A lot of people also haven't read it yet. Again, whose videos I've like watched or seen their lists for the predictions. I really, really liked this one. And it is definitely not the easiest read at times. There's definitely, I think I mentioned some pretty harrowing and terrible things that happen, but I think there's also a lot of really lovely and important observations. It was such a unique book. I'm really excited to see it on the shortlist because I don't know, it's just very unlike anything I've read before. So yeah, super excited to see it on there. I would like to reread it, honestly, at some point. It had a pretty big impact on me, like I mentioned in my shortlist video. Yeah, and I think it's very timely with the sort of the sort of discussion on environmentalism that it had. And what I really liked about it is it wasn't like, I don't know, beating you over the head with it. It wasn't, I don't know, like trying to force the reader into a certain perspective. It was there, the message was there. I think most readers would get it, but it wasn't like, I don't know, the book, the author sort of, I think, trusted the readers to know the message of the book, and I really appreciate that, because there's definitely some books I read that I enjoy for the most part, but I feel like sometimes the message is just being really drilled into a person. It's like, let the readers, like, trust your readers to know what you're trying to say here. So I really appreciate that pod. And lastly, from my predictions that I'd read and got correct, Trespasses. Very excited to see it on there. Another one of my absolute favorites from this year's long list. I loved it. I cried so much. I, again, don't have that much more to say on it that wasn't already said. I thought this was a great book, and I hope more people read it now. Very great at mixing like someone's personal and individual life at the backdrop of a very important and terrible political event that affected so many people, likely so many relationships, and I liked it so much. I don't know what else to say on it that I didn't already say, that a lot of people haven't already said. I thought this one was great. So yeah, I hope more people read it. Again, such a character-driven novel, but I loved it. I loved it so much. I think I will definitely be rereading this one at some point, maybe not later this year, but eventually, because I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I would really like to go back reading it now, knowing what happens, but I think I would get a lot more out of it again. So from the ones that I didn't predict correctly, and I think they are all books that I haven't yet read. The first one, and I don't want to say I predicted this one because I didn't, but there were a couple books I mentioned at the end of my predictions video that like I hadn't read yet, but I said, oh, I could see this making the shortlist because of what other people have heard, what other people have said on it, that I see that it's becoming like a popular, well-liked book, the sort of prize like circuits that I follow. And the first one is Fire Rush. And yeah, I'm excited for this one. It's another political book from what I have read and heard about it. And a lot of people, I don't think I've heard anything bad about it, honestly. I think I've just heard praises, and I hope that I enjoy it too. It's definitely one I'm excited to read. I am the first in line at the library to receive it. It's still on order though, and it's been on order since I don't know that I requested it or that I just put a hold on it, but I did that around the time that the shortlist came out. It was probably one of the first books that I put on hold, and so I've been waiting for over a month now, so I'm really excited to hopefully get it soon because I'm excited to read this one. And then we have Demon Copperhead. So I said this a little bit earlier when I was talking about the marriage portrait. I'm not sure that I expected both these two books by these two quite well-known authors to make it to the shortlist, but I'm sure it's quite well-deserved. I've heard pretty good things about this one. I think I've been like a little tentative to read it just because it is another long book and there was so much to read. And I also haven't read David Copperfield, which it is based off of, or takes inspiration from at the very least. I don't know almost anything about David Copperfield. I remember looking this up with my partner and seeing like, oh, I wonder if we could read David Copperfield and then read Demon Copperhead. But David Copperfield is like a 600 or 700 page book, if I'm not mistaken, or at least the edition we found was. So probably won't be doing that anytime soon. I don't know that I necessarily have like a huge interest in reading it, at least at this point when I have so many other things to read. So I will get to Demon Copperhead at some point before the winner is announced, because I'm like looking forward to it. But yeah, I think there's like a little bit of reservations around reading it for some of those reasons. And lastly, Black Butterflies is the last book that was put on the shortlist, and I honestly regret not buying this book earlier. Like I mentioned in my last video, I bought Children of Paradise because I could not find it at any library. I actually had to order it from Blackwell's in the UK. I couldn't find it at any like local bookstore anyway. So I kind of thought about doing the same with Black Butterflies because that was another one I was like interested in, but is not available at the libraries. But I don't know, I was just like, I'm gonna wait, maybe it'll be available at some point at a library or a closer bookstore, and I'll just end up getting it then. I don't know why, but this one surprised me a bit, and maybe because I haven't read it, maybe it's because there's also, I haven't seen a lot said about it. The people that I kind of follow haven't read it, or many of them haven't, and it doesn't have a lot of reviews on Goodreads. Last I checked, maybe now it has a bunch, which I mean, that doesn't necessarily like mean anything. A lot of these books were debut novels. I think Fire Rush as well does not have a lot of reviews, again last time I checked. There were really only 3 or 4 books I remember having quite a lot of reviews before I started them, or like reads even. So yeah, I don't know, but for some reason this one surprised me maybe the most, but it is one I'm excited to read. I'm quite excited to read about it. The cover is beautiful, and I know that's not like the only thing we should pay attention to, of course, as readers, but I don't know, I love the vibrant colors, and that really like brought me in to like read about it more. So I think I might buy this one sometime soon and hopefully get to it in the next month or so, because yeah, I'm excited for it, and I'm happy that another, I believe Priscilla Morris is also a debut author, at the very least not a very well-known one. So yeah, super excited that one made it. So yes, this is my reaction. I was very excited to see that 3 of the 6 books I predicted made it. I was very surprised though to not see Wandering Souls or Glory on this list. Honestly, like, I don't know, Wandering Souls especially, I saw a lot of love for. It is another debut novel about another important topic. I was not a huge fan particularly of Cecile Pin's writing style in this book. So I didn't love it, but I can understand why other people did. So I was very surprised to see it, but it's fine, obviously. I'm excited with the books that are on there. I'm never surprised about what books make it onto the shortlist, but I am surprised about the books that don't, if that makes sense. Because I feel like almost any book could really make it on the shortlist. There's a few that I feel like for whatever reason, be it the story, the way they were written, if they were doing something new or interesting with the story or the material, some of those like are pushed a little bit ahead. Like for example, in 2021, Pure Nacy was shortlisted and ended up winning. And I was not surprised about that at all. I mean, I liked Pure Nacy a lot by Susanna Clarke. I really enjoyed this one, so I was happy for it. But yeah, I was also just not surprised at all just to see it on the list. But yeah, I'm a little surprised that's, like, I would have been surprised, sorry, if it didn't make it, honestly. And it's the same with some of them, like Wandering Souls or Glory. I just feel like, partially because of what they were doing, which again, maybe I didn't love so much personally, but I know was maybe interesting or unique, or loved by others. And so that, yeah, I'm just a little surprised, but I'm happy. I love the shortlist for this prize. I just love, I don't know, either staying up or getting up for it if I can, or just watching it later in the day. It's been so exciting to follow. I'm gonna try to finish the last 6 books that I haven't read yet. I'm gonna, of course, focus on the 3 that I haven't read that are on the shortlist. I think this is maybe one of the most successful shortlists for me. In the past, I think there are quite a few books that made it on the shortlist that I hadn't yet read. So very, very excited about this. And I think I'll end this video before I ramble even more about it. I'm sure I'll have more thoughts on the Women's Prize for Fiction once the winner comes out, or maybe I'll do a little bit of a, I don't know, deep dive or something into some of the books before the winner gets announced. We will see how things go. But yeah, the winner will be announced June 14th, I believe, and I'm sure there'll be way more details on that as the date looms closer. So I hope everyone is enjoying what they are reading. Let me know what you thought of the shortlist. I'm very curious if you were surprised, if you predicted things right. Most people, I think, I was reading like the live comments, most people got 2 or 3 of the books correct in their own personal predictions, which is really exciting. But let me know if something came out of left field for you. So yeah, thank you again so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, leave a comment if you would like. I love hearing from you, so yes. And I hope everyone has a lovely day.